You're gonna turn the next few hours.
We are all going to die! No! Let's play!
You know, Jason, if you had told me that Dead Rising 3 was going to be one of my favorite games of 2013,
What is the deuce you say?
I would have kicked you right in the balls and told you to get the fuck out of here, and that we were through professionally,
An extreme reaction.
personally. That's about all I can say.
I would have been like, what the fuck is that for?
But you know what? I fucking love Dead Rising 3.
Yeah,
I
really.
think the game is-
Love.
I love it. I love it. I think it's fucking fucking-tastic.
All right.
Welcome to Rage Select. We're reviewing Dead Rising 3. I mean, like, Dead Rising 3, I say this in all seriousness, is the only game in the next generation console launch which I feel would be worth buying a console to get.
That's a bold statement, sir.
That's a lot of money. $500, a lot of money for an Xbox
Especially
One.
for a zombie game.
Right, but like, everything else was coming out. It's games we already seen, games that were on other platforms, games that, like,
Yeah.
as far as games that were only on one of the new consoles,
Right.
This one is the one to me that stood out more than any of the rest of them.
Of which there were only a handful. Anyway.
Well, more on the Xbox One, than the PS4.
Sure.
But
Wait, you wouldn't say that about what does
Killzone.
No. The one with the dude made of junk. And
Oh,
shit.
Knack?
Knack. Yeah, that's a platform seller right there.
I wouldn't say that about Knack, Jason. I wouldn't say
fine.
that about Knack.
Snob.
So okay. Before we start here, how familiar are you with Dead Rising?
Very little. I know there's like zombies and weird shit, and it gets a little crazy.
Okay.
And there's Frank West. He's a photographer, and then they're like
a war photographer.
Some war photographer, yeah. And then there's like some weird time constraints in some of the games. And
Yep.
that's about all I know.
All right. Well, let's start from the beginning.
Big blind spot in my gaming repertoire.
Okay. Dead Rising 3 takes place in the Dead Rising universe in Los Perdidos, California.
Yes.
And you play as Nick Ramos, this dude that runs an auto repair shop, and the zombies have totally fucking gone bananas.
It's like such a white guy. Ramos.
Nick Ramos.
Nick Ramos.
As opposed to what?
Ramos.
Nick Ramos.
There you go.
Okay.
That's better.
All right. I'm sorry. You know what? Actually, Nick is awesome because he's not a scruffy white dude.
I know.
I'm like, what the? Oh, well, all right.
What? Minority lead character?
Well, especially considering that Frank West is kind of scruffy white dude.
Yep.
And Chuck Green,
Yep.
also kind of scruffy white dude. But this takes place in Los Perdidos, and Nick is kind of with this group of survivors. There's been a zombie outbreak. The government's got the entire area kind of locked down, and you're kind of just trying to survive and get out. And that's just the beginning. The story of this game actually goes into a lot of really interesting places.
Okay.
And if you're a fan of Dead Rising, there's a third act turn that when it happened, I actually
Don't spoil it.
I'm not spoiling it. I went like, what? Oh shit! And I'll be honest with you, the first 2 acts of this game, kind of boring.
Really?
I mean, not boring from a gameplay perspective, but just from a story perspective. They're a little ho hum.
Okay.
They're setting up a bunch of characters that you meet in the world, and then by the third or fourth chapter of the game, those characters, they start to cross each other's paths, and you start to see the larger narrative come into focus. So from just straight up a story perspective, the first few chapters of this game feel very generic.
Okay.
But it does, if you stick with it, but during that time period, there's still hella lots of zombie killing to be done.
Oh, God. There's so many zombies on the screen.
This is the one, and this is the game more than anything else that I've seen on the current generation or the new generation of consoles, that this game is not trying to be the super best looking game in the world. What it looks like to me graphically is that Dead Rising 3 looks like one of the best looking games from the previous generation of consoles, plus more zombies on screen than I've ever fucking seen. I think State of Decay, not State of Decay, State of Decay, if the Rockstar game back in the old days, State of Emergency,
No.
State of Emergency.
Yeah, it's State of Decay's not Rockstar.
No, State of Emergency.
State of Emergency, right.
That was
I forgot about that.
That was a terrible. I really don't like that game very much. But yeah, even Dead Rising 2, Dead Rising 1, they were enclosed. Dead Rising 1 was in a mall. Dead Rising 2 was in this kind of Las Vegas analog.
Yeah.
There were a lot of zombies. Yes.
Yes.
This, you can look up a city street and it's just literally choked from top
It's
to
like
bottom.
all of the zombies.
All zombies, all the time.
zombie carpet.
That's right. The one thing that is missing out of this game that I wish you could do is I totally wish that there was some kind of like mini game or upgrade where you could jump and just like jump off their
Bounce
heads,
on the heads.
like run on from head to head.
Like your Jet Li or something.
Yes, that would have been awesome because you can do stuff like some of the most striking parts of this game were like in the very beginning when you're jumping like from car to car and the cars are just totally surrounded by zombies and they're all
Yeah.
reaching up going
That's good. They should have contracted you to do voice work on that.
all the voices
To make zombie noises.
That's just the noise that I make. It's the same noise that I make for everything. So that's a setup. Now, you talked about the time constraints in the previous Dead Rising games. And actually, I'd recommended those to somebody on a podcast.
Yeah.
And it came back to me one day and emailed me, and they're like, dude, the time thing in these games sucks. And I was like,
Yeah.
it really does. It's really terrible. Except that here, they have, in a lot of ways, they fixed that problem. So in Dead Rising 1, I didn't really play Dead Rising 1, so I can't say it was. Before I had an Xbox 360, there was time constraints and stuff you had to do during the day. In Dead Rising 2, there was basically a meter where you had to get Zombrex, which in this is if you're bitten by a zombie, you don't immediately turn into a zombie. If you get this drug called Zombrex and you inject it every 6 or 8 hours or whatever, you could stop from becoming a zombie.
Sure.
In fact, one of the things in this story is that the government has mandated that everybody get, if you're bitten, you get a Zombrex chip embedded in your skin that will release Zombrex into your system, but it's also totally a GPS so they can keep track of where you are, and you have no power about whether it continues dosing you up with Zombrex, which ties into this kind of conspiracy government story at a certain point.
This is like Glenn Beck's Dead Rising 3.
Exactly. So in the second game, you had to get Zombrex, and you could collect doses, but they were hard to find, and every so often you had to bring them back to the safe house to inject Katie, Chuck Green's kid, with. In this game, the way they've got it set up is there's like 8 to 10 chapters, right?
Yeah.
A chapter is like you go to an area to start this story mission. And when you're not in a story mission, you could just wander the world and you could pick up just Assassin's Creed level of pick up collectibles and pick up blueprints and outfits and all kinds of crazy
Riddler
shit.
trophies.
Right. Well, none of them, but see, the thing is that most of them are on your map. And outside of a few of them where they'll be on your map and you're like, where the fuck is that? And you're like, oh, it's on the top of that building. How do I get up there? You've got to figure out how to get it. They're mostly easy to find. It's one of those games that lets you, I got them all. It wasn't a problem.
Of course you did.
But I don't normally do that when it's irritating. When it's like Assassin's Creed Feathers or Riddler trophies, at a certain point I'll go, fuck you. But this one, it was fine because it just gave you an excuse to walk around. But back to the time thing. In this game, you have 7 days until the city's going to be destroyed by the military. And that time is constantly moving forward. There's a day-night cycle where the first time...
That's how time works usually.
Right, exactly.
Well, my experience with it.
As opposed to video games where sometimes you have to trigger day to
Events.
night or whatever.
Sure.
But here it's just continually going. And so the thing is that if you just run through all of the primary story missions to the game, you could finish the game in a day and a half of the game time. So they've got giving you a lot of time to go out and collect stuff. And if you're playing it on normal, which I was, you never really feel like you're in a super big rush.
Right.
Sometimes you go it's been a day, I should probably go do one of those missions just so that I'm that much closer to the end of the game. But
so there is a ticking clock, but it's not a huge pain in the ass.
It's a very slow ticking clock.
Okay.
It's just enough to kind of goad you into doing stuff without being all up in your face like, you got to get back in 20 seconds or, that sort of thing. I didn't have any problem getting 100% of the things that I could find in that game and still having a day and a half left by the time I initiated the final mission.
Yeah,
so,
I gotcha.
So, that's... they really toned that down. I think that's a good thing. I don't really even know why they need to have a time limit, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just it adds a sense of urgency.
A little bit. I mean, it's just
Even if it's artificial.
subtle prod.
Sure.
You got to keep getting shit done. I guess you can't just stand on top of a car and then throw your Xbox controller down and go to Arby's or whatever. I don't know. So there's that. Then, oh my God. So one of the things Dead Rising is known for is the crafting system, where you take a teddy bear and a machete and you make a pair of machete teddy boxing gloves or something like that.
Homeless MacGyver.
Yes. And in the previous Dead Rising games, you had to pick that shit up and you had to go to a crafting bench in order to do it. Now you could do that shit anywhere.
Yeah.
Just anywhere in the world. You could totally just take two things, put them together, make some bullshit.
I think we need a video of us trying that, like in real life.
See, it just makes a duct tape noise, and he's like doing something out of frame.
Yeah.
I think we would just end up with like a chicken leg duct tape to like
A
scissors
tire.
or something.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a
I don't chicken scissors.
chicken scissors.
I
I made chicken scissors, everyone. It's a formidable weapon.
But they've also done this thing where they've got multiple tiers where you combine these two things and you get this thing. But then if you get a blueprint and you combine a third thing with that, then you get like another, like a one tier up of that weapon. And then eventually you get to a point where if you get like 5 things and you put them all together, you make the ultimate version of that weapon.
Oh, okay.
And those weapons, like, I know how this sounds coming from me, but some of those weapons are kind of overpowered. Like, okay, as you kill zombies, you get experience points. You get experience points to level up. You get, I believe the PP is the experience points, and then you put those into a bunch of categories to level up things like firearms, and it'll be like guns have more ammo before they are useless or things like that.
Right.
So early on in the game, you make this thing called the Ultimate Death Reaper or something. That's like a
Oh,
it's a scythe.
that sounds formidable.
It's a scythe that has these skulls on the top of it. When you hit a zombie with a heavy attack, it actually makes them explode, and then they explode cluster grenades into other. So you could go up to one of those, just like the road is thick
Yeah.
with zombies, and kill like 700 zombies in 2 or 3 minutes.
Glorious carnage.
Which is one of the reasons I love this game. And you would also, like, if you put your mind to it, you could level up, just like level it up again, because you just keep doing that as much as you want to. So you could almost max out your level just going through the streets and fucking shit up in this game.
Glorious.
And then, what's cool is that they've really facilitated having fun, because there's also these safe houses that you can find that you can go to, and they have a timer in them, or it's like a little meter that goes up over time. And you can just, once you've built a thing one time, you can go to the safe house and just pull that thing out and put it in your inventory. And for like the big ultimate weapons, you can get like 2 of them out every 20 or 30 minutes. And those things last a long time if you're just using them to try to finish story missions.
Yeah.
So I never felt like I was under the gun, and I never felt like you do in a lot of zombie games, like, shit, I gotta save my bullets, I gotta conserve my health. Like, this is you know what Dead Rising 3 is? It is the polar opposite of The Last of Us. You're just like, fuck it, man! Woo! Let's do this!
I'm a gonzo murder machine.
That's right. Like, zombies, I mean, as the game goes on, they introduce more powerful versions of different types of zombies that are somewhat irritating from time to time.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, it's more about the traversal and making sure you just have a few big super weapons in your inventory.
Sure.
And you never have a problem with those zombies. So in between killing zombies and the main missions, there's also a bunch of submissions. In between each chapter, it'll give you like 3 or 4 submissions where you go to a person and they're like, hey, I need like 3 foods. Can you bring me some food? And so you'll go and get the food, and then you'll get those people and they become followers. Now, in the previous Dead Rising games, followers were a real liability because they would die all the time.
Sure.
And you had to get those followers back to a safe house. Now it doesn't matter. They follow you. If they get killed, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
I would usually just take them right back to the safe house and put them away and be like,
just lock them up.
be
It's for your
safe.
own good.
Just do whatever. I don't care because you're not helping me.
So, but there's a Sega Genesis in there. Go ahead and just play Sonic and shut up.
At a certain
Stay
point
out
in the
of trouble.
game, when you've leveled up enough, you become like not exactly Saints Row 4 powerful, but like you're so powerful. And I'm like, what's some chick with a machine gun gonna do that I can't do with the ultimate death scythe? You know,
I've got a teddy bear lawnmower burrito.
that's right. The teddy bear lawnmower burrito is especially delicious. But that leads into one of my favorite parts of Dead Rising, which is psycho encounters.
Oh man.
And I showed you some of these, and I sometimes the psychos in Dead Rising, I feel like, is this how Japan sees America?
I know. It's so bad.
Because you've got every so often
Not really that far off.
you run up to these people that are like super disgusting caricatures.
Yeah, of American excess and stupidity.
Oh, like hypersexual paramilitary grandma and like the woman who vomits on you, who's eating all the buffet food.
Nasty woman in the motorized wheelchair.
Oh, God. And so
grotesque.
these will end up being like these little submissions that you can choose to do them if you want to. I highly recommend doing them because they're hilarious and they're not super difficult. But they add a lot of weird kind of stuff. Like, okay, I can't say this. It's a spoiler. I'm not going to say it on the air.
Okay.
I'll tell you about it when we're done, though. So, yeah, you've got all those. The psychos are back. The psychos have been toned down from the previous Dead Rising games. It used to be like, zombies, no problem. You run into one psycho, and they're just going to start killing the shit out of you. Here, they're not that bad. If you play the game on normal difficulty, it's really not all that difficult, which is fine for me because...
And there's a morbid sense of humor to all of them.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of weird shit, just kind of psycho storytelling going on in the game.
It's very Grindhouse.
Yeah, it's very strange. But we haven't even gotten to the best part yet.
Oh?
What does Dead Rising 3 add that Dead Rising 1 and 2 didn't have?
What?
Cars.
Yes! My favorite.
You can totally, like, as you can combine weapons, you can find cars, you can pick them up, you can drive them around. Or you can combine cars and make them into, like, murder, death implements of destruction.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this, but my favorite thing in the world is the roller hog, where you take a motorcycle and you take the steamroller from a steamroller and you put it on the front of the motorcycle.
Why would that not be your favorite?
You put two flamethrowers on the side. You paint it with American flag colors.
Yeah, of course you do.
And then you just drive around, which actually ties into...
And the zombie just starts chanting USA as you flatten them.
As you play the game, you actually start to Los Perdidos is divided into 4 quadrants that are connected by a highway system. And one of the only there's a few things I'm going to talk about to knock this game for, and one of the only things that is a little bit of a knock is that you do need to like drive back and forth between those areas a lot.
Yeah.
And once you get to a point where, like, if you have a roller hog's the same, you can go to like a garage and spawn it whenever you want to, and eventually you'll get your upgrades. Like when you get all of your upgrades up to the maximum, you get like this one for cars where it's like they don't take damage anymore. So like, you just drive this thing forever; it never will blow up. It never takes any damage.
I'm starting to understand why you like it so much.
Oh, I really do. I really do. But one of the kind of downsides of the game is that a lot of times you're going to spend a lot of time, like, you got 3 new missions for helping people and killing psychos, right? And they're in 3 separate quadrants of Los Perdidos. So you go to this one, and you do this one, and you go to that one, and you do that one. So there's a lot of time that's spent driving around. And I'll be honest, the first, like, half dozen to full dozen times that you're driving the roller hog down the highway, killing hundreds and hundreds of zombies, just the act of driving from one side of the town to the other, it is incredibly satisfying. But after a while, it does kind of get to be like, oh, shit, I got to go back over there again. Fuck, man.
On the 405? Oh.
Right. There is no other traffic. You ever see any other traffic? I don't know. It's California. I thought there was always traffic.
Yeah.
So then you've got the cars. Now, as far as, I mean, that's one thing to knock the game for. There's a second thing that and I don't really know. I'm gonna hammer on the game too long for this, but like, I feel like this game could have used, I don't say this very often, could have used a little bit more hand-holding in places.
Oh, okay.
Like, there were a few things that I didn't realize that you could even do in the game until I was a little bit over halfway through it. Like, it took me a while to figure out exactly where the thing is that lets you spawn a car out of it. Because you go into the garage, right?
Right.
And there's, like, these 2, with the thing you put a car on, the lifts, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking all around, and there's, like, a thing. I go upstairs. I'm trying to go into this office. It's not up there. I go into like the lobby. There's nothing there. But on the wall, there's like a poster, and if you run up to that, then you can use that to spawn cars. I didn't figure that out for a while, or the fact that you can combine food into like drinks that will make you invincible for a while. I didn't figure that out until almost the end of the game.
Huh.
There's also, when you go to the upgrade screen, there's upgrades in the middle of the upgrade screen, and at the top of the screen, there are these item category upgrades that you can buy that will let you, like, you'll get a recipe for, okay, so you need a hammer and a chainsaw, right? And then you put those two together and you get the hammer saw or whatever, right?
Right.
So the hammer is like a blunt object. All the objects in the game have like a classification, blunt, and the saw is like a mechanical object. Well, if you upgrade the category that hammer saw is in, you can use any blunt object and any electrical object to create a hammer saw on the fly.
Oh.
And I didn't realize this until after I had maxed out the rest of the upgrades, that there even was another set of upgrades up there. And it may have been that I wasn't really paying much attention. It's just I feel like the game could have used a little bit more hand-holding at the very beginning, or just pointing that stuff out.
Sure.
A couple of times. I did play the game online a little bit. I don't think it's incredibly satisfying. You
Okay.
pull somebody else into your game, and then you
Really?
guys can just do whatever you want. You can do story missions. You can do stuff like that. You can do just carnage or collecting collectibles or things like that. You know, it just ended up being me and this guy running around murdering a whole bunch of zombies. And I was like, I don't kind of get out of my game. I don't really want you here.
Yeah, not to be rude, but you need to go.
Yeah. There is a hardcore mode where the time does go faster. All the zombies are harder.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like if you have the game, there's actually you can actually beat the game on normal and then new game plus your way into the hardcore with all the upgrades you already have,
Yeah.
which is cool. But this is definitely a game for people like me who like video games that are power fantasy more than like
Yes.
super hard challenge. This is not a super hard challenge by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's about it.
What do you give it?
Good looking game, good sounding game. I'm giving it a 4.5. It is almost perfect. This was, it was on my game of the year list. It was fucking incredible. I love it.
Damn.
I found myself pulling it up and playing it after I had beaten the game just to murder a bunch more zombies.
I'm going to be honest with you, though. I got to call you out on that one. You do that with everything. I'm going to play this one again after I finished it.
Not always. Sometimes,
A lot.
Sometimes. But this is one of those ones where this is one of those games where you start playing the game and then you go and then you're like, all right, I'm just gonna do this one more little thing over here. I'm gonna do this one more little thing over here.
Sure.
Just one more. I do one more. And then suddenly, it's 6 o'clock in the morning and the sun's coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, one last thing.
Yes.
On our way out, this is we're leaving this review right now, but there is one other reason why I got to take a half point off of this, and it's the major thing, not
yeah?
any of the other stuff. The major reason I'm taking this off, motherfucking iPad smart glass. There are chests all over this game that are like you're picking up these keys and they're like blah blah blah. As near as I can tell, no way to interact with them if you're in the game.
Yeah.
You have to be using the smart glass bullshit. Remember at E3 where they showed like you could do a missile strike?
Yeah.
Well, not if you don't have a fucking iPad, you can't.
Lame.
Guess what? I don't have an iPad. No missile strikes.
Lame.
So, yeah.
Are you a friend or a foe?
12! Number 12! The world has been lied to! I will change that with you!
Getting the hell out of this city? I'm taking my friends with me.
All this cure thing is a goddamn myth!
There is no cure for this.